Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. First, I want to thank my partner in this, Senator Hirono, for her leadership in this work to repeal the outdated and dangerous Alien Enemies Act of 1798. The last time the Alien Enemies Act was invoked, it was used to detain and deport German, Japanese, Italian immigrants during World War II. Sorry. One of the most shameful chapters of American history. Now, Stephen Miller and Donald Trump are preparing to dust off the law for their plan for mass deportation. This will be another moral stain on our country. The context in which Trump and Miller are raising the Alien Enemy Act is in what they say are their plans to target cartels and transnational criminal gangs. But it is not what the Alien Enemies Act does. The Alien Enemies Act targets people based on their nationality, not based on their behavior. When Trump and Miller tell you this is about stopping the cartels, do not believe them. Do not. It doesn't allow them to target the Tren de Agua. It allows them to target all Venezuelans. It does not allow them to target the Sinaloa cartel. It allows them to target all Mexicans. This includes green card holders. It includes people who are themselves a victim of the cartels and gangs. Now, invoking the Alien Enemy Act, the way Trump and Miller are planning to, is illegal. It's unconstitutional. It's a huge stretch under the law itself. But if there is one thing that we should have learned during Trump's first term in office, is that things being illegal doesn't mean they are not going to happen. So we need to be clear about what this will mean for human beings in this country. Thousands of families will have their lives upended because of Donald Trump's actions. Thousands of families will be separated from the ones they love and the country they love. And thousands of families will have their futures and dreams torn apart. It's crucial to understand this basic moral point. This will not happen because of anything they have done. It will happen because of where they are from. It is hard to imagine anything more un-American than that. The Trump administration's immigration policy is a threat to immigrants like criminals. America is too great to fall prey to Donald Trump's anti-immigrant agenda. We need to restore basic humanity to our immigration system, and that starts with repealing the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, with Our Neighbors Not Enemies Act. Together, we will end this xenophobic law once and for all. Thank you, and now it is my honor to introduce my friend and co-conspirator, Senator Hirono.
Thank you so much. Aloha, everyone. I want to thank Congresswoman Omar for her leadership on this and so many other issues that are important to our communities. And I'm glad to stand here, not just with her, but with my other colleagues from the House. We all know that President Trump is going after immigrants. He's made it very plain day after day. And as Bishop Buddy said in her recent sermon at the National Cathedral, refugees, families, and even children from immigrant communities are fearful of Trump's mass deportation plans. And I was told that workplaces and other places where immigrants gather, they're not gathering so much anymore because of this tremendous fear. Donald Trump will use his powers to invoke the archaic Alien Enemies Act, a law that has only been used 3 times in the history of our country, during a time when we were at war. And as Congresswoman Omar noted, particularly for those of us of Asian extraction during World War II and the internment of Japanese Americans. And even though the Alien Enemies Act requires that our country be at war, or that another country is actually invading our country, I think those are niceties that President Trump will ignore as he invokes the Alien Enemies Act. So, you know, what he intends to do is scaring our communities because, frankly, anyone, any undocumented person can be accused of being part of a criminal gang, and they will be deported without any due process. So let me read some of the things that President Trump has said. Recently, when asked about families with mixed immigration status, there are many mixed status families, but some are U.S. citizens, some are not, some are undocumented. Trump said he doesn't want to break up families, and the only way to keep them together is to send them all back, deport them all. He also said, when a conservative commentator said that Trump would, quote, declare a national emergency, unquote, and, quote, use military assets, end quote, to lead a mass deportation program, Trump replied, true. He is not fooling around. He will use whatever tools he has to deport immigrants. And by weaponizing this ancient law, as I said, just note this, any immigrant can be accused of association with gangs and cartels, and they will be deported without due process of law. So our Neighbors Not Enemies Act would repeal this xenophobic law and affirm that, as Bishop Buddy said, the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. I'm proud to be a sponsor of this legislation in the Senate, and we will continue to fight back even as our communities of immigrants remain in fear.
Thank you, Senator. And now the gentlelady, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley from Massachusetts.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Congresswoman Omar and Senator Hirono, for convening us today. Thank you, Congresswoman Ramirez, for your compassionate and effective leadership and partnership on so many issues of consequence. And to my dear friend and mentor, Congresswoman Schakowsky. Today, we take an important step toward protecting our immigrant neighbors by reintroducing the Neighbors Not Enemies Act, legislation to repeal the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, the last remaining relic of the deeply problematic Alien and Sedition Acts. This law, rooted in xenophobia and fear, has no place in our nation's statutes. Yet, its shadow looms large, granting unchecked power to detain or deport foreign nationals simply because of where they come from. This law was used during some of the darkest and most damning chapters in our nation's history, including the internment of Japanese, Italian, and German Americans during World War II. The need to repeal it is as urgent today as it was then. Donald Trump is wasting no time advancing the policy violence that he previewed in Project 2025. Playing out what we knew all along, that Project 2025 is simply Trump's agenda. Fierce executive actions have been rolled out, which are all about what they plan to do to the people of this country and not for them. He's wasting no time. He has pardoned violent insurrectionists. He has targeted our immigrant neighbors, attacked birthright citizenship, and so much more. And he has specifically threatened to weaponize the Alien Enemies Act in his plans for mass deportations, attacking immigrant communities under the guise of national security. We cannot allow this dangerous vision to become a reality. My district, the Massachusetts 7th, is a district that is dynamic and vibrant, also one of the most unequal in our country, and was amongst the hardest hit by the last Trump presidency. With nearly 1/3 of residents foreign-born, the fear and trauma cause felt in our communities is all too real. I've met constituents who've developed harrowing and heartbreaking plans, telling their children what to do if they come home from school and they are not there because they've been deported or detained. Elders who've been here for many years, carrying their medications around with them everywhere they go, terrified that they might be ripped away from their families in the only community they've known. Third graders, terrified they will come home to an empty house and never see their father again. This pain, fear, and uncertainty is the shameful reality for so many in our district. But let me be clear. We will never stop fighting to protect our immigrant neighbors, our workers, our families, and everyone who stands to be harmed by this new administration. I'm pausing because I'm recalling when Representative Omar and I stood at this very podium in the face of personal attacks, which questioned our right to call this country home. And yet here we are again. These are certainly unprecedented times, but we will meet them with unprecedented organizing, unprecedented mobilizing, unprecedented community, and above all else, unprecedented hope and love. While we continue legislating, sharing resources to protect our neighbors, governing cooperatively, Dr. King reminds us that our most powerful weapon is organizing. And we will stay organized, and we will remain vigilant. We must pass the Neighbors, Not Enemies Act. Our bill will protect the rights and due process of our immigrant neighbors, affirming just that they are our neighbors, not our enemies. We must pass this bill without delay. And now I'll bring to the podium Congresswoman Ramirez.
Thank you, Congresswoman Presley. I've been pausing a lot over the last few months, over the last few weeks, and certainly over the last few days. I'm Delia Catalina Ramirez, but more importantly, I'm the daughter of two Guatemalan immigrants, Luis y Maria Ramirez. I am a citizen by birthright, and I'm the congresista of a welcoming state and a district that understands that America can only be great because of its diversity. Even before the start of this administration, Homan and President Trump declared war on so many of the members of our communities, so many of our family members, so many of our friends, the people we work with and the people we worship with. They've declared war on our neighbors. During the first 48 hours of his administration, Trump signed a barrage of executive orders that abuse the power of government to criminalize immigrants, to end asylum, and to punish those who provide services and refuge. And no, let me be loud and clear. Executive orders do not and cannot change the law, especially the Constitution. But Congress can. We have the power and the obligation to change the laws that allows this administration to treat the people we love as our enemies. We know that so many of our immigration laws are outdated. We haven't had comprehensive immigration reform of any kind in the last 40 years. And we hear people say, do it the legal way. Do it the legal way. I've not met one undocumented person that would say to me that they would prefer to be here without documentation. They would also like the legal way. And yet, yesterday, we canceled CBP. Thousands and thousands, women and children who have been on the Mexico side desperately counting down on the day that their appointment to finally come to our port and get considered for asylum, they got a notification on their phone that said, your appointment has been canceled. You will no longer be able to be considered to seek asylum in this country. So hypocrisy is leading in this moment. Dissonance is leading in this moment with that administration, certainly not with us. We hear deport just the criminals, but our cruel laws paint every immigrant, even dreamers, even children, even farm workers, healthcare workers, students as criminals. We hear, well, they're not refugees. But our ineffective laws do not respond to the modern threats endangering the lives of so many people looking for refuge. And it's evident that our current laws don't meet the moment, and it's time to change them. Congress must put an end to the outdated immigration laws, strengthen protections, and close the policy loopholes that continue to be exploited by this administration that are causing harm to our neighbors. But friends, for me, they're not my neighbors. They're my uncle. For me, they're not my neighbors. They're my cousin. On Monday night, I sat at a dinner table. My uncle to the left, my cousin to the right. Mija, what do I do? I'm 69 years old. I've spent almost 40 years in this nation, and I put 4 boys through college. I've spent thousands of dollars to do it the legal way. To come and find that there is no pathway for me because I entered unauthorized over 3 decades ago, seeking refuge. Mija, can I go to work tomorrow? Because I have to pay the mortgage. My 25-year-old cousin who works at a child care center said to me, Delia, can I go to work tomorrow? Friends, it's not just our neighbors, it's our family, it's the children. It is the fabric of this nation that's under attack in this moment. And what keeps me strong and hopeful is the women that I get to stand with here right now. Thank you to partners like Congresswoman Omar and Senator Hirono in this fight for our neighbors. Because I'm proud to join you in repealing the outdated Alien Enemies Act of 1798. Because there's nothing great about an America that refuses to provide refuge to the persecuted, rest to the tired, and safety to those in danger. Together in the streets and in Congress, we can build an America of hope, an America of justice, an America of love, resisting the destruction of fear and hate. And let me close by saying to you, they may think that no church is sacred enough. They may think that no school is precious enough, that no hospital is critical enough to stop the persecution of our neighbors. But we know better. Our communities are precious, and our coalition is ready to organize, to be in the streets informing our community about their constitutional rights. And we're also ready to fight like hell for the people we love. Thank you. And with that, let me introduce to you a friend, a mentor who has been organizing for far longer than I've been alive. The one, the only, Jan Schakowsky. Hey, that's a compliment, a very big compliment. Jan Schakowsky.
That's so true. Okay. So I'm Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky. I represent the 9th Congressional District in Illinois. Delia is from Illinois as well. And there are so many people right now in Chicago who are so afraid. You know, the president had said he wants to target Chicago. He wants to target Illinois. And I guess that's been slightly postponed, but the fear remains. Now, my district is one of the most diverse in anywhere, and we embrace our immigrant neighbors that make our district so much stronger. And I'm so proud to join the neighbors not enemies piece of legislation. It's time that we do that. But I want to tell you some examples of the fear. So there was a Know Your Rights workshop that I was at in my district. And among the things that people were warned to do, don't open your doors. Make sure that you know where the family is, or maybe it's time for you to identify a neighbor, a friend who will take your children if you get deported. Imagine that, the cruelty of that, that you should line up somebody who will take care of your children. My high school in Rogers Park, Illinois, Sullivan High School. A book was written about Sullivan High School recently, about the diversity of that. It was the, what's the name of the bill? The
Refugee High.
what was it?
Refugee High.
Refugee High. Refugee High. That's the book. Because from everywhere, intentionally, our community has asked for immigrants to come to our district and to be part of the growth and breadth of our district. So the very idea now that so many people are afraid, what I heard today is that there's about a 50% decrease on the street of people being out who are immigrants or partly immigrant people, that they are staying home from work. They are staying home with their children. They are trembling with fear what is going to happen. No, as Delia said, we're not going to just stand by. We are going to be fighting back. We're going to be sponsoring and fighting for the legislation that our senator and our congresswoman have put out for us. No, we are just not going to endorse the terror that people are, and live with it, the terror that people are feeling right now. So all of us who love our neighbors, who cherish our diversity, are going to be fighting all the way. They haven't seen anything yet. We are going to push back. And I think most Americans are with us. Let me say one other thing. We had a roundtable not too long ago, a couple months ago, with employers in the city of Chicago who were telling us how they need workers. And some of the people there also were the potential workers if they only had a work permit. We need these people in our city, in our country, because they are prepared to do the, to work with all the employers who need them to be there. So far, we have not seen enough of these work permits, and I think that's the route that we should go. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Congresswoman. With that, we'll take questions if anybody has any.
Do you have any bipartisan support on this bill? And have you had any conversations with Johnson or Thune in the Senate about bringing this to the floor?
Do you want to say something about this?
No, I need to go
Okay,
involved.
go
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We are introducing it today. Looking forward to having conversations with folks afterwards.
I have a couple of questions. Congresswoman who's leaving invoked,
The senator.
I'm sorry, Senator who's leaving invoked Bishop Buddy from the prayer breakfast yesterday, and she was talking about the justice and mercy that is expected from Christians. But her message was an ecumenical message of compassion. I have a question for you specifically as a Muslim. How did you feel about that exchange yesterday, and are members of the Muslim community afraid?
Well, I was raised to have enormous respect for clergy. That is what you are raised with if you are raised with any faith. And it was evident to me that President Trump was not. In his disdain for her call for mercy, her statements about not seeing all immigrants, children and adults and families, not all of them being criminals, was very telling about the kind of heart that he has, that a message like that would be offensive. All of our communities feel incredibly vulnerable, whether they are Muslim, whether they are immigrants, whether they are part of the LGBTQ community. Everybody feels, as the bishop said, very, very scared in this moment.
Hi, Congresswoman. So there's already been a number of legal challenges to Trump's executive orders, especially the birthright citizen one. Can you just speak to, do you support those legal challenges? And, you know, obviously you guys are introducing this bill, but do you support those legal challenges outside of Congress?
Well, I do believe his executive order to end birthright citizenship is illegal and unconstitutional, and it should be challenged. I am really proud of folks around this country who responded so readily, as many of us were trying to gasp just the onslaught of damage that we are anticipating, that there are folks already ready to challenge these orders, especially ones that we know are illegal and unconstitutional. What this bill, whether it passes or not, why it's important for us to introduce, is that because it is such an old, outdated piece of legislation that many people do not know that it still exists. At the time it was introduced, there were 4 bills. It's the only one that's remaining. And as the senator said, it's only been utilized 3 times. So this is more also of an awareness campaign of just the dangers that lay ahead. Because the combination of the executive orders, the pieces of legislation that the Republicans are passing out of the House and the Senate that are going to be at the president's desk, the possibility of invoking the Alien Act, all of that really does provide the tools for him to cause mass damage to communities that we love and that love us and that love this country. Most people make the incredible journey to get to this country not because they hate this country, it's because they love this country. I have never spoken to an immigrant, whether they are here legally, like my family came, or they came here and they are still undocumented. I have never seen an immigrant say, I do not like this country, I do not love this country. We all love and appreciate the opportunity to have freedom and justice. We all love the opportunity to be in a country that allows us to have prosperity. We all love the country that allowed a refugee within less than 3 decades to become a member of Congress. Because I'll be celebrating my 30th coming to America on March. We all love this country. Some of us might even love it more than the people who were born here. Yes, we sign up to serve in the military. We sign up to be active members of society. All of my siblings have been part of service work in all of the professions that they have chosen. That tells you my dad became a postal office worker and retired with a pension. He could have found any other job. He spoke 7 languages. But he wanted to do that because that was somehow an opportunity to give back. I have teachers, doctors, nurses. That's who my family members are. So, no, we did not go through all that we had to come through to get to this country because we hate this country. We did all of that because we love this country. And the idea that these people only want to go after people that have committed a crime should be dispelled by the fact that he showed so much disdain for the pastor when she said not all immigrants are criminal. Because it shows that he does think all immigrants are criminal.
He sold Bibles. He didn't read one.
That's why he doesn't know his own favorite verse. Anybody who reads their own religious book would at least have one favorite.
Given the composition of Congress and, the fact that it's under Republican control, do you think a lot of, this type of opposition to some of Trump's immigration policies are going to fall on local governments who kind of, challenge some of these executive orders or laws that might, be on the books soon? And if you can speak to maybe some of the things you're hearing, back home in Minnesota from immigrant groups and how they feel about some of what Trump said at the inauguration.
Yeah, I'll answer the latter part. About 2 weeks ago, we convened nearly 100 immigration lawyers, advocates, people who run organizations that do resettlement, and we talked about what our game plan was. Many of us are really close, like Congresswoman Ramirez said. Many of us have family members that could be impacted. These are not just our neighbors. And I think going forward, many of us remember what it was like under the first Trump presidency. So before even these executive orders and pieces of legislation started to worry us, we knew what to expect, and that's why there is a game plan. I have been incredibly proud of the coordinated efforts of attorney generals across the country who are taking action in suing him in the courts. I've been incredibly proud of law enforcement, whether it's police chiefs or sheriffs, saying they are not going to be part of rounding up innocent people who are just carrying on about their lives, trying to live the American dream, and put them in detentions and allow you to deport them and rip them apart from the families and the communities that they have built in this country. And so obviously there's still the fear that we are seeing. People are, trying to process all of it, but there is less of a crisis-like reaction because all of us know what to do, where to go, and how to resist the devastation that we know and knew and try to warn people was coming. I don't know if you can.
Sure. I'll just echo that and say that, again, Project 2025, a playbook for wholesale harm, forecasted exactly for us what was to come. We have governed and lived under a Trump presidency. We have governed and lived under a pandemic. And so we have learned what kind of infrastructure and rapid response and fight back tables and collaborative approaches we have to have in order to mitigate the harm. And, on the heels of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s the observance nationally of his birthday, Dr. King posed that urgent question in his final work: where do we go from here? Chaos or community? And I feel resolved, emboldened, and encouraged that in the face of such fear and uncertainty, that people are choosing community. I'm not only heartened by the intentional cooperation by attorney generals and mayors and governors and school superintendents and our partners in state houses and city halls, but I'm encouraged by the outcry and the outpouring of commitment to make sure that they are sharing information about Know Your Rights. Just regular everyday people who recognize that our freedoms and our destinies are tied, and who see those that are most vulnerable to these attacks as their neighbors and not their enemies.
That will be it. Thank you all.